Hello and welcome to Big Fish Kids Club this week.
Hey everyone, it's great to have you with us.
We hope you had a great week and we're looking forward to another fantastic night of Big Fish tonight. And we've got lots of different things going on, haven't we, Beck?
Yes, we have lots of fun things. We've got some craft and a story and a song. And I think you said something about dancing, Steve.
Yes, I'm going to be doing the dancing challenge at the beginning today, but we'll sort of see how we go with all those different things and that. And so to get you warmed up and ready to go, I think we should do the dancing bit first of all. So you're going to squeeze off camera whilst I do the dancing, just in case I get overexcited and sort of bash you or something. Yeah.
You do get a bit excited when you do dancing.
So you know how this works. You've got to dance along with me, but I will stop before the music stops. And so you have to make sure you pause when I pause. And if you don't, then you're out. But if you do, then you're in. We'll only do 2 rounds just to get you warmed up, ready before we get on to our song this week. So, you ready? Here we go. Let's hit the music. I see some good dancing, you know, a bit of guitar playing, that kind of thing. So did you stop when I stopped? If you did, you're still in. Excellent, well done. If you didn't, just sit down for a moment. Okay, we're ready for round 2. Okay, so there's the music again. Go. Did you stop when I stopped? If you did, well done. You're one of our winners this week and you're nice and warmed up, ready to go. If you didn't, don't worry. Get back up on your feet because now we're going to have a great song in a moment. But just before we get to our song, hopefully you're warmed up, ready to go. But Becky needs to just remind you a little bit about the craft for this week to make sure you've got all the bits ready that you need. So let's see and let's pull up our picture and we'll see what it is.
Okay, so this week for our craft, you will need a sheet of card or paper, a lollipop stick or some card that you can have in the same kind of shape and size, some colouring pencils, a pair of scissors and some sellotape as well.
And is that everything they need?
I also used a pen, but they don't need to.
Okay.
So if you would like to use a pen, then you can as well.
Excellent. So hopefully you've got all those bits and pieces together, but now that you've got those together, you're nice and warmed up, ready to go. We're going to do our song, which this week is going to be I'm Going to Jump Up and Down. So enjoy.
And now I'm gonna spin right around, gonna praise your name forever. I'm gonna shout out loud, gonna deafen the crowd, gonna sing my praise to heaven. I'm gonna jump up and down, gonna spin right around, gonna praise your name forever. I'm gonna shout out loud, gonna deafen the crowd, gonna sing my praise to heaven. I will run this race and I will never stop. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When you've got such a lot, when you've got not a lot, what? Be happy. I'm gonna jump up and down, gonna spin right around, gonna praise your name forever. I'm gonna shout out loud, gonna deafen the crowd, gonna send my praise to heaven. I'm gonna jump up and down, gonna spin right around, gonna praise your name forever. I'm gonna shout out loud, gonna deafen the crowd, gonna send my praise to heaven. I will run this race and I will never stop. I follow Jesus till the day I drop. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When you've got such a lot, when you got not a lot, what? Be happy. I will run this race and I will never stop. I follow Jesus till the day I drop. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When you've got such a lot, when you got not a lot, what? Be happy.
Hi, Luke. How are you doing this week?
I'm good, thank you, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm really, really excited about our story this week. But before we get on to this week's story and the promise that God has this week, I wonder, can you remember anything about last week's amazing story?
There was Mary Ann.
Yeah.
And a bag of rubbish.
Yeah.
And a fountain pen. Does that squirt ink everywhere? Is that what a fountain is?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And a manky old boot.
Yeah, and there was something else really, really important. Do you remember what that was, Luke?
Oh, a candle.
That's right. And yeah, so last week's story wasn't a Bible story, was it? You couldn't find it in the Bible, but actually it was just to help us understand a bit more. And what did the candle do when the candle came into the house? Do you remember that?
Oh, it cleaned everything up.
Yeah.
All the mess that had been made.
And it was a bit like, we talked about it being a bit like a parable, didn't we, that Jesus told to help us to understand things. And it was actually that candle coming in and cleaning everything up in the house was a bit like what? Do you remember?
Washing things? Cleaning things?
No, not washing things or cleaning things, but actually, the house was meant to be our lives, wasn't it? And actually, we have all that dirty, messed up stuff from bad thoughts and bad words and bad deeds in our life. And the only thing that can clean them up, like Mary Ann couldn't sort it out by herself, could she? The only one who could do it was the candle, the light of the world, who was
Jesus!
That's right. And actually, Jesus is the only one that can come in and clean us up and sort things out. And that links really well into this week's story, because the guy in this week's story needed some cleaning as well. But actually, just like Mary Ann couldn't sort it by herself, he couldn't sort out what he needed cleaning up by himself either.
Ooh.
And actually, it also helps to remind us a bit about, actually, that there is only one way that we can be cleaned up. Do you know what that is, Luke?
I'm going to go with what I think is the Sunday school answer here.
What's that?
Jesus.
I thought you were going to go with soap. So, I'm quite glad you went with Jesus.
Well, soap is very good for cleaning outside.
Soap is very good for cleaning, but actually, it only cleans the outside, doesn't it? We need to clean on the inside. And the only way that can happen is if we trust and follow God's plan, which is just what the guy in our story found out as well.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, so I love this story, Luke. I think you're going to love it as well. Do you want to get yourself nice and comfy in your bunk?
Yeah.
We'll do the story, and we'll get you back next week to see what you think about the story. Does that sound good?
Please. Bye.
Okay, so as Luke heads off to get himself nice and comfy down in his bunk, I encourage you to get yourself nice and comfy as well, because I've got an amazing story for you this week. So our story this week is all about someone really, really important. It's all about this guy by here. Now, I wonder if you can guess what kind of job you think he might have done. Now, hopefully you guessed that you thought that he was a soldier. And I want to tell you, he was a soldier in the King of Aram's army. He was a soldier called Naaman. That's not a name you hear very often nowadays, is it? But that was his name. He was called Naaman. And Naaman probably had to do chest expanding exercises each morning just to fit all of the medals that he had across his chest. He was a really, really important general in the King of Aram's army. He had lots of friends, he had lots of money, he had a wonderful family, some great children. You would imagine that he would be really, really happy, but actually at the beginning of our story today, Naaman was actually very, very sad. And let me tell you why that was. You see, Naaman started the day, like I'm sure all of you did today as well. He got up and he started to have a bit of a wash, and he was scrubbing away with the water and the soap and that kind of thing. And, well, then he noticed it. There was a spot on his hand. Oh, that's odd, he thought. Better clean that off. So he scrubbed a bit harder. It was still there. He tried again. But no matter what he did, Naaman couldn't get rid of the spot. Naaman realized just what it was. Naaman realized that he had a skin disease called leprosy. Now, don't worry if you have a spot on your hand or your skin or somewhere like that, because actually we don't get leprosy in this country. And actually even now today, even where you do get leprosy, there are medicines that can help to treat it. But back in Naaman's day, there was nothing that they could do to sort it out. In fact, what would happen is if you discovered you had leprosy, you would be sent to live in a special town outside the city, outside away from where everyone else lived, and you would be there just with the other people who had leprosy. I wonder, do you think that Naaman was going to have a great and exciting life after this point? No, he probably wasn't, was he? And you know, the Bible tells us that there's something that
stops us from having the best and most exciting and amazing life we can have as well. And I call it a kind of disease. Now, it's not a skin disease like leprosy, but it's actually, I call it this kind of disease by here. I call it eye disease. Because actually, the thing that stops us from having the best thing is when we sort of say, well, I want what I want. And we can be like that, can't we, sometimes? Perhaps we see something that one of our friends have got in the playground or something like that, and we say, well, I want that and I want it now. And we're thinking about ourselves rather than thinking about other people. We're thinking about how we want to live our lives our way rather than what God has in store for us. And you know, the Bible has a word for that eye disease. The Bible calls it sin. And it says that it causes a great big problem because it separates us from God. And it stops us from getting to know him, the one who made and created us, the one who loved us. And it stops us from getting to be with him. Well, anyway, back to Naaman. He was packing up his bags and all the things to go off to live in this place outside the city where the people with leprosy lived. And that's when a servant came to his wife. Now, this servant, Naaman, had actually brought back from Israel when he'd gone there with the army. And she said to his wife, she said, Mrs. Naaman, there's actually a man, a great man of God who lives in my old country. A man of God called Elisha. Just like mine and Becky's son Elisha. But it wasn't that Elisha, it was a different Elisha. In fact, we named our son after this Elisha. And she said, Elisha, I'm sure that if Naaman went to see Elisha, then Elisha would be able to heal him. Really, thought Naaman? Could it be possible? Would this man of God, Elisha, really be able to sort out the leprosy and mean that I could carry on my life? That would be amazing. That would be incredible. So Naaman went to see the king of Aram. And he said, King, please, please, please let me go to see Elisha. And the king said, Naaman, you're one of my favourite generals of all. Of course I will let you go and see Elisha. In fact, I'm going to write a letter to the people of that country to ask them to help you because you're one of my favourite generals of all. And you know, that's when Naaman made the first of the many mistakes we're going to see him make during the story. Because you see, Naaman rushed back home as fast as he could, and he went to half of his servants and he said to half of his servants, go and get the finest clothes that we have and pack them up to come with us. And he said to the other half, go and gather together all of my money. Because you see, Naaman wanted to take all these fine clothes and all of this money with him because actually, well, Naaman thought that if the man of God was going to help him, that he was going to have to do this by here. Naaman thought that if the man of God was going to help him, then, well, he was going to have to, well, pay for that help. And you know, actually, we sometimes make this mistake as well, don't we? We sometimes think that if we're going to sort out the problem of our eye disease, the thing that separates us from God, that we have to sort of pay God back to sort it out. And we might say things like, God, I'll be good for an entire week, and then that will be okay, won't it? But you know, the Bible says there's nothing that we can do to pay to sort out this by ourselves. Because we know, don't we, that no matter how hard we try to be good, we sometimes think things that are wrong, or we say things that are wrong, or we do things that are wrong, or we just have wrong inside of us. And actually, there's nothing that we can do to pay for all of those wrong things by ourselves. But the great and amazing news is that actually someone has paid the price for us so that we can be forgiven. But I'll tell you about that in a bit. Well, anyway, Naaman gathered up his servants, he gathered up some of his soldiers, and he started to head off towards Israel. And as he was making his way towards Israel, that's where he made, well, the second mistake. You see, as he was going along, he knew that he needed to go and see the man of God, Elisha. But as he was travelling, he thought, well, I'm a really big and important general. I think I should go and see, well, this person by here. So let me just colour that in by there. Let me give it a bit of an outline so you can see it a bit clearer. Now, hopefully you can work it out from my picture who Naaman went to see. But let me tell you, he went to go and see the king. And he went before the king and he gave him the letter from his king. And the king opened up the scroll and he started to read. And it said, this is my favourite general of all, Naaman. He has leprosy. I want you to heal him. Suddenly, all of the colour drained out of the king's face. What am I going to do? What does the king of Aram think that I'm able to do? I'm just a king. I'm no one really important. There's no way that I can heal his general of leprosy, what am I going to do? You see, the king didn't know what to do, and there was nothing that he could do because actually, well, Naaman had gone to the wrong one of these. Naaman had gone to see the wrong person. He was meant to go and see the man of God, Elisha, but instead he'd gone to the king. And you know, sometimes we go to the wrong person to try and sort out the problem that we have of all those things that we think and say and do that are wrong that separate us from God. Do you know, sometimes people will go and try and see a priest hoping that he can sort out the problems or things like that. But you know, the Bible says there's only one person who can sort out this problem. But I'll tell you about that in a bit. But you know, we know, don't we, that we need to go and see the right person when we have a problem. Because when we have a problem in school or something like that, we need to make sure we go and speak to our teacher because they're the right person to sort it out. And you know, it's just the same for this as well. That if we're going to sort out the problem that separates us from God, we need to go to the only person who can sort it out. Well, the king was panicking. He didn't know what to do at all. But then along came a servant from the man of God, Elisha, and said, "King, don't you worry. Send Naaman to see my master Elisha and all will be okay." Whew, thought the king. Everything's going to be fine. So he sent Naaman to go and see Elisha. So Naaman got on his horse with his soldiers and he rode off to go to Elisha's house. And he arrived at Elisha's house and he thought, well, I'm a big and powerful and important general. I'm sure that Elisha will come straight out, wave his hands over me and he'll heal me and all will be fine and I can go back to my own country. So Naaman stood there and he waited. And he waited. And he waited. And there was no sign of Elisha. And as Naaman was waiting, wondering what was going on, suddenly the door started to open. He thought, okay, here we go. Here comes Elisha. And out from the house stepped Elisha's servant. Oh, that's odd, thought Naaman. But Elisha's servant said, Naaman, Elisha has been speaking to God, and God has said that he is going to heal you. What you need to do is you need to go down to the River Jordan and you need to wash 7 times in the River Jordan. What? Said Naaman. Isn't Elisha going to just come out and wave his hands over me and I'm going to be healed or something like that? No, said the servant. No, you need to go down to the River Jordan and you've got to wash 7 times in the River Jordan. What? This is useless. This is pointless. Why am I here? You see, Naaman, even though he'd been told that God was going to heal him, Naaman didn't like this by here. He didn't like the plan. He didn't like the plan that God had for how he was going to heal him. And you know, sometimes we don't like the plans in our life, do we? Perhaps you come into school in the morning, your teacher tells you just what the plan is for the day and you think, oh, that sounds boring, I don't like that. But actually your teachers have got that plan because they know what's best for you. And actually, do you know, God knows what's best for us more than anybody else. And actually, he has an amazing plan to sort out the problem of the things that we think and say and do that are wrong. But lots of people don't like that plan because it involves saying a word, but saying it in a way that we mean it. A little word we often don't like saying, which is sorry. But we need to say sorry to God, but in a way that says that we really, really mean it. That actually we're saying, God, I'm really sorry that I've gone my own way, that I've done my own thing. God, I want to make you the boss of my entire life. That actually that's God's plan to sort out the problems that we have so that we can get to know him once again. Well, Naaman was furious. He said, this is pointless, this is useless. He ran, he jumped on his horse and he galloped away as fast as he possibly could. His soldiers looked at each other. They thought, we better get after him. I've got no idea where he's going to get to in this kind of furious mood. And so they jumped on their horses and they raced after him. And eventually they caught up with him, sat down by the side of the River Jordan. And one of his bravest soldiers went across to try and see what was going on. And just as the soldier got there, Naaman turned around and he said, how have you seen this river? This is the most dirty, disgusting, horrible river I have ever seen in my whole entire life. Back in our country, we've got some amazing and incredible rivers. Why can't I just go and wash in one of those rivers? Why does it have to be this dirty, disgusting river by here? You see, Naaman still hadn't learnt his lesson. Not only had he messed up in thinking that he was going to have to pay to get things sorted, not only had he gone to the wrong person to try and deal with the problems he had, not only had he rejected the plan that God had for him, but actually he didn't even like this thing by here. He also didn't like the place where God had said that he was going to sort out his problem. And you know, it's the same for us as well. You see, the place where God was going to sort out the problems that we have wasn't a very nice place either. You see, the place where God sorted out everything for us was actually the place where Jesus died on a cross. Because you see, the Bible says that as Jesus died on that cross, he was actually, paying the price for all the things that we've done wrong. He took all those things upon himself so that we, if we followed God's plan and turned to him, the only person who could sort out that problem, and said we were sorry, we could be forgiven. You see, the reason that Jesus was the only person who could sort out that problem is because Jesus is the only person who's ever lived on this earth and never done anything wrong. And so actually, by us turning and saying we're sorry to him, he would pay for all the things we've done wrong, and in exchange give us his perfect and amazing and incredible life, so that one day when we stand before God, he would look at us, see Jesus' amazing life in us, and say, welcome into heaven. And what we need to do to know that is to follow God's plan, to turn and say, God, I'm sorry that I've messed up. I'm sorry that I've gone my own way. God, I want to trust and follow you. And I know if I do that, then you will forgive me. You'll make me part of your family. And one day I'll get to be with you in heaven forever. Well, Naaman still wasn't sure what he was going to do. So one of Naaman's brave soldiers went across to him again and said, Naaman, I'm wondering, if the man of God Elisha had said to you that you needed to tiptoe around the edge of a boiling hot volcano and you'd be healed, would you have done it? Well, of course, said Naaman, I'm a big and strong and courageous soldier. Oh, said the soldier. Naaman, I wonder, if Elisha had said you had to dangle by your fingertips over a shark-infested lake, would you have done that? Well, of course, said Naaman, I'm a big and strong and courageous soldier, I can do anything like that. Well, Naaman, said the soldier, he's just said that you need to go and wash in the river. If that's the plan, if that's how things are going to be sorted, well, why don't you try it? And Naaman thought, maybe he's right. Maybe I need to give it a go. And so Naaman decided to get up from where he was and to go into the river to give it a go. And so, as Naaman stepped into the river, it would have been a bit like squelch, squelch. It would have been horrible and disgusting. He probably had to hold his nose because it smelled so bad. And he thought, okay, here goes. What am I going to do? He plunged himself down under the water. He came back up. He looked at his hand. He said, it's useless. There's no point. Look, nothing's happened. I don't know why I bothered to do this. What was wrong? That's right. He didn't just have to wash once in the river. He had to wash 7 times in the river. So that's just what he did. Why don't you count with me? We've done 1. So here we go. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Naaman came up out of the water. He looked at his hand and a great huge smile spread across his face. The leprosy had gone. God had healed him because he'd followed the plan that God set out for him. And you know, just like God promised Naaman that if he followed his plan, he would be healed. So God has said that actually, if we follow the plan that he has for our lives, by turning and saying we're sorry and putting our trust in Jesus, then actually he'll heal us of our eye disease. He'll clean us up on the inside, make us brand new, give us a brand new life, a brand new start with him, and that we'll get to be in his family and get to be with him forever. That actually, I did that a number of years ago. You know, when I was probably a similar age to what some of you are now, somebody explained to me all about the cross and what Jesus had done for me there and how actually he wanted me to know that new life in him. And I said, Jesus, I'm really sorry that I've done my own things. I'm sorry I've gone my own way. Jesus, will you please forgive me and let me live my life for you? And I know that because I did that he cleaned me up on the inside. He made me part of his family. And one day I'll get to be with him in heaven forever. Not because I've been good, but because I've got Jesus' perfect record inside of me. And so that's the story about Naaman and how he made many mistakes trying to sort out his problem, but actually when he listened and followed the plan that God had for him, everything was okay. And actually how, if we trust and follow the plan that God has for us, the plan that happened when Jesus died on that cross, then we can know that we've been cleaned up, sorted as well, and can one day be with him. And you might be thinking, well, Steve, you often talk about that kind of thing, about how we can know that new life in Jesus. And actually, if you want to know a little bit more about how you can do that, then don't hesitate to get in touch with me or Becky, and we'll love to tell you and explain a bit more so that you yourself can know what it means to trust in Jesus in your own life. Well, it's time now for us to pray. So, in Big Fish, we do it slightly different. You've got to put your hands on your shoulders like this. Okay. When I say 1, out like this. When I say 2, cross your arms like this. 3, close your eyes, bow your head. Then I'll pray, I'll say amen. And then 4, sat up nice and straight, ready for the next part of Big Fish. So you ready? You go. Hands on your shoulders. Okay. Sorry, just a bit of a cough. Okay, ready? Everybody ready? Right, ready. Whew, sorry, just stretching out a bit. Okay, ready. 1, that's good. 2, 3. God, I thank you so much for all the amazing and incredible stories in your Bible. God, I thank you for the story about Naaman and actually how, even though he messed up, even though he made mistakes, actually he realized at the end that what he needed to do was trust you, and then everything would be sorted. God, I pray that you help us to understand as well that actually we can't pay for the things we've done wrong by ourselves, that actually there's no other person apart from Jesus that we can go to, that there's no other plan apart from saying we're sorry and turning to you, and that the only place where all of those things can be dealt with is at the cross. God, I pray that you help us to understand that it is only by trusting in you and you alone that we can be forgiven, can have that brand new start, that brand new life, and be part of your family forevermore. Amen. 4, sat up nice and straight, ready to go, because we're going to go across now to Becky, who is going to be doing some amazing craft with you this week. So let's go and see what it is.
Hi everyone, wasn't that such a great story Steve told, all about Naaman and how God healed him when he followed the plan. But before we get on with today's craft, let's do this week's memory verse. So the memory verse for this week is, Christ has given us the promise of eternal life. And that is in 1 John chapter 2 verses 25. So Christ has given us the promise of eternal life. That's in 1 John chapter 2 verse 25. Okay, so today's craft, we are going to make a little Naaman who's going to bob up and down into and out of the water to show how he had to dunk himself 7 times before God healed him. So firstly, you're going to take your piece of card, and then you're going to take your stick, your lollipop stick, and you're going to hold it at the bottom of the card so you can see, so that you can make sure that you've got a bit that you can hold on to, and then there's going to be a bit more that sticks up the top, because then Naaman is going to be on the lollipop stick and he's going to jump up and down out of the water. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to work out how much of the stick that's going to be. So you probably want the paper to cover about half of the stick, about that much. Ask your grown-ups to help you if you need to, and then you're going to cut out a strip just like this to use to go around. So we'll see if I wrap this round like so, then we're going to stick Naaman to the stick, and it's going to go up and down as if Naaman is going up and then down into the water and up again. So got that bit done. Right, and we'll come back to that in just a minute. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to make the Naaman who's going to be on the stick. So what we need to do is we need to take some of the card again. So probably we'll use a similar kind of strip of card. It's probably about 4 or 5 centimeters wide, grown-ups, or high, just to make it easier for you. And then we're going to cut that out as well. If you struggle with scissors, ask one of your grown-ups to help you, and I'm sure they'll be happy to help you cut things out. So, oh, sorry. What I'm going to do is we're going to fold it in half, because we're going to have the stick in the middle of the two, of the card, of the two sides. And so on one side we're going to have Naaman, who's going to look very sad because he's got the spots on him. And then on the other side we're going to have Naaman looking really happy because God has healed him and he doesn't have spots anymore. Okay, so you want to draw. You have to make sure, don't cut where the card is folded at the top. You don't want to cut anywhere across that section. So I'm gonna draw Naaman. So I'm going to give him a head. But as I said, I'm going to leave the top bit so that the two are still connected. If they're not still connected, it doesn't matter too much. You'll just have to stick one to one side and the other to the other side, but it just makes it easier. So, there we go. And okay, so they look a little bit like when you do paper chains of people. So I'm only going to draw him on one side because then I'm going to cut it out, which should mean that I should have a person on both bits of card. So you don't actually have to do the whole of Naaman's body. You could just do up to his tummy or wherever, because he'll be going up and down into and out of the water. Right. So I now have 2 Naamans, 1 to go on each side of the lollipop stick. So I'm going to start with the sad face. So I'm going to give him some eyes. And a nose. And a sad looking mouth. And I'll draw some red spots on him. Probably weren't red, but it makes it clearer. Put some trousers on him as well. think I'm going to give him beard. Yeah. Okay, so we've got one Naaman, a very sad looking Naaman on the one side. Now on the other side. He's meant to look at you. Kind of surprised but happy kind of face. And then colour in his face. Do his beard once I've finished doing this bit. Okay. Your colouring will be much better than mine, because I'm sure that you are much better artists than I am. So once you've done your Naaman, so he's looking very sad on the one side and looking much happier on the other side, what you're going to do is you're going to stick him to your lollipop stick. So I'm going to do... Probably do more than one piece of sellotape just to make sure it's stuck on properly. Okay, that's one. And then, so I'm going to stick. So once once Naaman is stuck to the stick, you'll want to secure it so that the other side isn't just flapping. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to fold some sellotape into a little loop, which I think we've done before. Put one by there, another one by here. I'm also going to do some on his arms and his legs so that his arms and legs are stuck together as well. So one by there. by here, and the last one just by there. Okay. There we go. So you've now got a little man on a stick. You've got Naaman with spots on one side, and you've got Naaman without spots on the other side. So what we're going to do with this piece of card, which I said is going to wrap round, is we are going to put him in there. And wrap that round. So you'll have, oh, he's a bit too big for this. So what we're going to do then is I'm going to take the rest of the card. I'm going to do this bit again because he's a bit big. So if you've made a Naaman that's a bit smaller, then that should be fine. But you want to make sure that he's covered by the river, because he wouldn't have just been covered by the river in his middle. So there we go. So okay, so this should mean, the way this is now, Naaman should be that way around. So you'll have Naaman like that, who goes down into the river. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then what you want to do, because your card will be curved, is you're going to turn him around, and then he's going to pop up, and he's not going to have spots anymore. So that's how we're going to do things. Okay, so once you've curved your card, you're going to get some sellotape. You might want to ask a grown-up to help you out with this bit. Go. So Naaman goes up, down, up, down, and then after he's been up and down in the river 7 times, as I said, you can turn him around and yay, he's been healed. So what you might want to do is you might want to colour this in as well, so it looks like the River Jordan. You can colour it in whatever colours you like. I was thinking blues because it would have been water, but I was also going to put some green in there as well, because it was not the nicest river, as Steve said. It was probably very smelly and not very nice. So I'm going to squash this down so I can do some of the colouring on it. There we go. So we've got that bit, and then it adds some green patches in different places. So the river doesn't look very nice. And then we'll squash it back out again, and we'll put Naaman back in, and there you have it. That is our craft for this week. So, and then once Naaman has been healed, pops up like that. So it's a bit fiddly, but I hope that you enjoy making the craft as much as I have.
Wow, fantastic. An excellent craft again this week. We hope that you've enjoyed this week. We hope you had a great time. And we've got lots of things that are going to be appearing through the weekend. Becky thinks I'm going to be testing her now, but no. Tomorrow we have the worksheet going up on the Facebook page for you to complete and sort of fill in and whatever you have. And also there's a memory verse reminder on the bottom of that. Then on Saturday, we'll be posting
The verses, which there are verses this week, obviously because last week's story wasn't a Bible story, there weren't Bible verses for it, but this is in the Old Testament, so this is in Kings, I think.
Yeah, and so that'll be going up on Saturday for you to go
Yeah.
and have a look and see about that, see what the story's like actually in the Bible.
Yeah.
And on Sunday, the story recap will be going up with a couple of questions just to make you think a little bit more about the story. Then on Monday, Luke will be doing the memory verse recap as always. There'll be another video from one of our friends going up next week of another great Bible story and things like that. So keep an eye on our Facebook page through the week for all those different things. And we look forward to seeing you again next Thursday. So bye.
Bye.